Hello, everyone. I'm Sudha Jamte, and welcome to WeeklyWed. And for those of you who are regulars, I see you coming in. We had a little confusion with the time change in US happening much
Hello,
earlier.
everyone. Sudha Jamte, and welcome.
There's my echo. Okay, so that's a reminder that we are streaming this to YouTube just to capture a recording. Otherwise, all our conversation is going to be right here in the Zoom room with the motivated set of you who have shown up here to have a fun conversation. And this being International Women's Month, we actually have shared a women's planning list. And I have an announcement about the IoT women coming up later towards the end today. But I was so excited to come across a different dimension of a person that I have been working with. I did not even know that about them. So for those of you who are new, this is my learner community, Business School of AI. And so you can go to businessschoolofai.com and find everything that we will be talking about and linking today. Okay. So I've been working on a new book with Taylor and Francis called Large Language Models for Linguists. And it is, I believe it is out on Amazon for pre-order, but not yet launched. So you'll hear more about this. It's not about the book. But in that process, I ended up working with someone, the most proactive person, I should say, even before Christmas last year, Leah Kinthart, contacted me from Taylor and Francis marketing team and said, for International Women's Day, which is 3 months out, I am writing a blog and covering women in AI. And she has done an amazing job covering, doing interviews of women who are authors from their portfolio. And it is such a global, diverse set of women. Nothing like what we have in women's planning. The scale of this is so amazing, and that got me thinking. Looking at each of these women and what they are representing, there was like, it was about books, but it was never about the book, right? It was about the women. And I saw the power of storytelling, and I wanted to connect with Leah. And at that point, I was not even thinking whether she'll come in as a speaker, whether she'll have the time for it. And then I came across this blog where she's done a storytelling about 5 research papers. So one is about writing an interview of women, which is different skill, I thought. And then writing something which is like a summary of research papers. I mean, all of us here know, we have been through that. In some of our sessions, we look at research papers and we review them for our own learning, talking about AI and stuff. So I was very surprised how beautifully this was done. So I was like, okay, how is this being done and who is the person behind it? And I was surprised it was the same Leah Kintat. And so I started talking to Leah, and that is why we have her here. So first, I'm going to share. Deepika, can we share the paper? Let me put that here for those of you who are here on the Zoom. Just a minute. Okay. So I'm just coming back to the Zoom room to add that here. Okay. So I just found that this is 5 different research papers, and it is showing a whole bunch of different dimensions of policy related to women. And everything had a beautiful story of real people from around the world. And so I was very amazed by that. And I just thought, okay, I need to invite this person. And that is why we have Leah here talking to us. Okay. Deepika, is it possible for you to share this paper? Sorry, one second. And then I also want to introduce to you Deepika Sarkar, who is our host. Are you guys able to see my screen by any chance?
No, we can't see your screen.
Okay.
So if you
Yeah.
could share again
Yeah.
before we move forward.
Okay. Let me see. Zoom has done some change, so I'm not able to see the share option. Deepika, I just texted you that link. So I would like to see if we can just show that on screen.
Let's do it. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So reading research papers requires a certain amount of technical skill. But then the research, when it tells a story and it has to inform policy, all policy makers are not technical people. Everybody doesn't understand all the nuances of how what the research is saying and how it happens. So it is important to take the human element of that story. And so that was my fascination. Are you able to see that?
Looks great.
Yeah. And before we bring Leah, I just want to read a little bit of the intro that she's written to, set the stage for what this conversation is going to be about. So if you could see it, it says, in the 1970s, women's studies, now typically called gender studies, was born as an academic field, inherently multidisciplinary. It draws from various academic fields and examines the social and cultural construction of gender and the experiences of women. Taylor and Francis imprints, Routledge, and before 2005, Carfax were some of the more original movers and shakers in gender studies, helping to bring about together communities through their books and journal programs. So, Leah, thank you so much for joining us today. Please, I've put you on spotlight for everyone. I will stop sharing so you're also in the screen. Take it away. Thank you for being
Thank you.
here.
I'm so honored to be here. Thank you so much. I do want to backtrack just a little bit and give massive credit. Well, sorry, my name is Leah Kinthart. I am the Senior Content and Social Media Manager for Corporate Communications at Taylor & Francis. And I do want to backtrack just a little bit. So on my team is Eleanor Connor. She does fantastic work with me with social media. I also want to just backtrack a little that fantastic article on women in AI. Yes, I did get in touch back in December to try to promote it. And thank you so much, Sudha, for being in that article. It's a wonderful article, but I do have to give credit where credit is due. And Tom Hallett, our amazing content manager, did compile that wonderful article. But yes, really excited to talk about 5 research papers impacting women in policy right now. And yeah, just to go back to that gender studies idea, to celebrate International Women's Day, to celebrate Women's History Month, it was very exciting for me to just look at gender studies because it is inherently multidisciplinary. It draws from various academic fields to examine the social and cultural construction of gender and the experiences of women. So it was really a great thing to be able to talk about 5 research papers focused on gender studies, and I will talk a lot more about it, but really bring that content to the fore during Women's History Month.
Beautiful. And I also want to introduce Deepika Sarkar. She is a silent voice because she chose not to be on camera today. But also, I want to give credit to Deepika for actually being a silent voice in all my work to make sure that, whatever I'm doing with AI has the AI ethical lens. And LM here is the one who sends the beautiful creative, the newsletters you see, all the promo that you see is from LM Victor from my team. So thank you guys. Okay, take it away, Leah. So thanks.
Yeah, great promo, by the way. So yeah, we talked a little bit about a couple points that you wanted me to maybe explore with your listeners today.
Yes.
And one of the questions was, why do we need gender studies?
Mm-hmm.
That's a big question, obviously, but I can certainly talk about my own personal opinion. I'm a marketer. I'm a corporate communications person, not specifically a researcher, but I do obviously have an opinion. I'm writing about it. And so my personal opinion is that personally, I never really liked history classes growing up in school. To me, they seemed really unrelated to real life. They were made up of rote memorization of names and dates of battles and kings. But when I did get that first exposure at the university to that history of regular everyday people, including women, history really came alive for me, and I fell in love with it. And I did end up becoming a women's studies major at the university. And beyond that being just more interesting, it's simply more relevant. So if you're looking at just one group, when you're trying to learn history or learn any topic, whatever group that is, you're missing out on the big picture and the whole story. But the irony is, back in the day, some people might call what I studied in college fluff. But to me, missing the realities of half the population or missing the realities of any group in a population, that is the real fluff. And you had mentioned to talk a little bit about like what the background of some of the scholars who might do research in gender studies.
Right.
And so if you look at that particular paper, 5 research papers impacting women in policy right now, there are 5 papers featured, and in some cases there's one author. In some cases there are multiple authors. So if you look at, you can hover over their names in every research paper, and the first article that I featured is from the journal Gender and Development. It was written by Dr. Mohammed Anwar, who is a lecturer in African Studies and International Development. If you go down to the 5th article that's featured, the last story, that features an article by Elaine Lin Iho of National University of Singapore and Wen Qingting, who is from the National Chung Cheng University of Taiwan. So people can really have backgrounds in anything from geography to law. So I do think that it has the potential to be limitless.
We're not, what I think is so great about any sort of gender studies and, especially in the intersection of AI and technology, I think it's great that we really are not limited in that sense, right? Ideology, we're talking about social implications of people, right? So that goes on regardless of what industry you're in. Tech is affected. There's this really great book by this woman named Carolyn Criado Perez called Invisible Women. And it's literally about how women are left out of studies in terms of driving, in terms of like test dummies, for example, So, and I know that goes into a different sector, but it ends up affecting technology. It ends up affecting all of us in the way we live. So, yeah, I really am excited to hear about this. So please continue.
Great. Yeah, we talked a little bit previous to this conversation about what was the tool that I used to sift through massive amounts of research papers. And it's a really incredible tool that I first learned about here at Taylor and Francis. It's called Dimensions Explorer, and it's from a company called Altmetric. So what Altmetric does, it's used by publishers, it's used by researchers and others. It basically monitors the reach of research through online interactions. So it's a great tool to find out how much impact a paper has. You can see what sort of media, what sort of press the paper's gotten.
Oh, that's great. It's like a citation following thing. I see that. Okay. Like citation analytics almost.
Yep. What sort of social media, what sort of mentions, and then policy mentions. And for this talk, I actually looked to see how far back the policy mentions go. And you can actually go back to the 1920s. So, all of the publishers are on there. It's really great. And I use it to get inspired. So even if I don't have something in mind, I was thinking loosely, for example, about the SDGs a couple months ago. And I went into that tool and they actually have developed, you can sort by SDGs. So you can see how many papers and from any publisher or from any author or, from any time period were related or specifically concerning any SDGs, UN SDGs. So it's a fantastic tool.
Amazing. So let's continue. So let's talk about the papers. I mean, I really, it fascinates me how you told the stories behind each of these women in different countries from each of these research papers. Is there some other special approach that you take when summarizing a story, and like how it resonates to readers across different cultures? Like, how do you decide these are the papers I want to put together to put out on behalf, in a way, even though it doesn't necessarily represent the company, but on behalf of a platform like Taylor Francis, how do you decide what you're going to put on there?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, right. I mean, I'm trying to share the story of research impact. So it is our corporate blog. And what I try to do, and what the content person on my team as well, Tom, tries to do is take a journalistic approach. So
Right.
what this means is sharing that variety of international research. So not just all European research or all American research, but I think Suda had mentioned that, really trying to pull out being global, having a global perspective at all times, and trying to pull out some things interesting. So just like my complaint about high school history classes being boring, I want the pieces that I write to resonate. I want people to have an aha moment. And so for example, I spoke quickly with Suda about one of the papers before this talk, and we talked about the term sandwich generation. I didn't know I'd never heard of that term until I read that research paper. So I'm thinking about the user reading these blog articles. I'm sure there's many terms that they haven't used before. So I do try to define. I don't assume that people understand acronyms. I try to define what terms mean in a piece so a broad general audience can understand research that may be highly academic. And I think this brings research alive. And I also try to make sure I'm appealing to people who may have English as a second language, making sure everything is clear. What my process is, so choosing the paper, once I've chosen them, and I talked a lot about what I would choose. I do read the papers, obviously. Sometimes I'll use books. I'll try to read the entire book if possible. And I really do study the abstract. I study the conclusion of the research paper. Then I try to pull out key points. I'm also, in this case, reading the policy papers that these research papers impacted. So I'm going to focus on the points that the policy paper focused on. And going back to journalism, in many cases, I'm trying to focus on current research. So I'll try to bring in, not only discuss the paper, I'll try to bring in current events, key statistics. And so this is kind of what I do in my job every day. Every day, I'm primarily actually a social media person. And every day I'm working on social media posts. And I try to make the stories compelling. I'm always trying to hone in on key points in as few words as possible. So I also just try to give a reason why should people care about it. So for example, when I discussed the paper In Search of Filipino Women in the Middle from the Asian Journal of Women's Studies, I bring in additional data to the blog. I brought in data from the National Institute on Aging, which looks at the aging population in Asia. So, excuse me, if someone who's reading the piece wasn't aware that this is an important issue, they will be by the time I finish my article. I try to put all of the research in context and explain why it might be important.
That's an amazing approach. And yeah, that's a great way to look at it, right? It's just about you have a core thing that you are looking for. How do all these papers align with it? How do you bring it back to that? How does a reader essentially come to your page, like, to the page, not knowing what they're about to read really, and take away a whole new perspective on something they may have not thought about before. So yeah, that's a great way of putting it. So I wanted to know, in terms of each of the papers, are there any that really stood out to you?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, what I'm basically doing, I talked about, sifting through a lot of research. And there are ones that will stand out are the ones that I want to share. Because again, I'm going for those compelling stories that tick a lot of those boxes I spoke about. Is that paper a recognized global issue? Has the research paper been cited in policy documents? Is it something that's in the news? Is it something a lot of people are searching online for? You can look that up. So is this something that a lot of people are interested in? Do we know a lot of people are searching for a particular topic? So I do try to focus on ones that have had research impact. So when I'm doing either content or social, whether it's FDA approval for a rare disease treatment or stories like these that I can tie into a policy document from the WHO or the World Bank. Another thing I try to do is provide something unique. So something no one else has already covered. So talking about some of the other blogs, if you go to the Taylor and Francis corporate blog, you'll see some stories about the Taylor and Francis Journal's Women's Studies and Women's History Review. So I had the honor of meeting the founders of both of those journals. And I told these stories in our blog. I actually told them for the very first time, which I was surprised. So that's exciting. So I'm sharing this important research, but I'm also contributing to important research by telling these stories too. And I definitely hope I'm helping to create more impact for all of this research, spreading these stories outside of very specific academic sectors, or spreading them to a general audience as well, or policy making. So taking it outside of, a specific academic sector or policy making circles, and to a more multidisciplinary sector, and also to a broad general audience. And by translating this research to everyday people, hopefully educating, but also empowering people as well.
That's wonderful. No, I get it. Like, whenever I read any of these research papers or these studies, even if it's a small paper to us, or it's affecting a small group here, the moment you put it out there, the moment another person reads it, it becomes a part of their daily thought process, right? It's like what I was going back to talking about the book I had read, and how I always now think about cars and crash test dummies, not up until recently, not being tested on like a female body dummy, and how that affects all of us on a daily basis. And that was from, it was just a paper that someone had written, that it was coming from there, and then from there people researched it and it became a bigger thing. So it's interesting when you talk about all of these papers, how they've come to be and what stands out to you. So I mean, once again, thank you so much for being here today. um as we wrap up, do you have any advice for people who are putting papers out there that people like you end up curating and reading and putting it out into a completely different environment, and essentially have a whole different reach from the original purpose of the paper, right? Like a WHO study that would have stayed within the circle of that once you put it onto a corporate communication blog, such as Taylor Francis's. How does that, what advice do you have for people who are trying to do that? And what are your
Sure.
closing
I have lots of advice. I love to work as a mentor for other marketing and comms folks. I would always say one thing I'm pretty sure about is that if you are in marketing or communications, I do think the best marketing and communications people are really passionate about what they're marketing. I literally see how great blogs and social media posts are better when the individuals who do them are passionate about the topics. I've been lucky enough to have worked at places like New Scientist magazine. I've worked at Informa Connect, which is owned by Informa, that owns Taylor and Francis. And I've been able to meet and many people and learn from people who are literally changing the world. So every day for me has been a new adventure. And what I would say, a couple things. So if you're telling the story, as I mentioned, try to tell a story no one has told before. That's a great marketing tactic, because that's going to get a lot of people to visit your content. And then try to put yourself in the shoes of the person who is reading it. So make it understandable to a broad audience. Sometimes your audience will have to be very specific, and there's some tactics there too. So if your audience is very specific, you want to make sure you're telling that story the right way. So immersing yourself in that world, going to those conferences, learning the language, because every sector has its own language and that language changes, and what they're most passionate about. So that will help you narrow things down. You don't want to tell a story without having the goal of knowing the audience you need to reach. And lastly, I do want to emphasize that gender studies is really more about inclusion than exclusion. So making sure you're telling stories that might be hidden, for example, on paper. The women, so on paper, the women in one of those stories that Excelsa Tongson researched spoke about, those women work for pay outside the home. But unless someone like Excelsa is telling their stories, we don't see that those same women are also doing unpaid work inside their home. So things like taking care of children, taking care of their aging parents, that was what the sandwich generation term means. So unpaid care work, for example, is not included in the system of national accounts in the Philippines, but unpaid work is still vital. It's still work, and it's vital to communities. It's vital to countries. Another study on the women in Colombia showed in that paper, in that article that I wrote, showed how most previous policy papers had largely overlooked their experience. So that experience of individual women's work to provision food in their communities, if you don't take all of these things in consideration, you're only seeing part of the picture. If those stories aren't told, not only will the policies be made that don't help people, in some cases, as with one of the studies that I profiled, they might actually hurt the communities they're trying to help. And just to close up, the UN says that every single day, women around the world do 16 billion hours of unpaid work.
Yeah.
And they say if all unpaid work were given a monetary value, it would exceed 40% of the GDP of some countries, which is more than entire sectors such as manufacturing or transport. So this essential labor remains largely invisible. And that labor came up in a couple of, actually 3 of the research papers and of that piece that I wrote. And that labor is largely invisible in national statistics and budget. So that's why it's so important that this research is done to kind of bring that to the surface, because that invisibility is a driver of poverty. It's a driver of inequality. And when you don't tell the whole story, you're excluding the realities of half of the population. Only the wrong story, I can't emphasize that enough, is only part of the story is the wrong story. And we've seen throughout history that telling the wrong story, what erasing has done, at best, it makes it difficult for that part of the population to thrive. And at worst, it dehumanizes. So as June Purvis, who I was honored to interview, the founding editor of Women's History Review, has said, there can be no going back to the pre-1970s days. Women's history is here to stay. So that's my big spiel about that.
And I agree with every word. Thank you so much, Leah, for being here. That was such an inspirational conversation. Yeah, I mean, I reference books all the time. It makes me think of Nick Kristof's book, Half the Sky, and it's about, half of the population, just meaning women and people who identify as other, just not being included in the repercussions of that. Yeah, I mean, as you're talking about the 16 billion hours of unpaid labor, I think about how much that does affect our daily economic concerns, our daily choices, and these are not things that are held into account because it is invisible. So, thank you for highlighting these research papers. Thank you for bringing this to a spotlight. And once again, thank you for being here. This was so wonderful.
Thank you. I invite everyone to read the paper. The blog
Yes.
definitely will provide links so everybody can
Yeah.
take a look and read a little bit deeper into what I spoke about.
Yeah, I posted it in this slot in our
Great.
channel here. So,
Thank you.
and then we will also share it with anyone who is interested. So thank you so much. Wonderful.
Thank you very much. It's wonderful to meet all of you.
Thank you. And Sudha, welcome back. You're muted, Sudha. Go ahead, though.
Let my hand, yeah. Okay, I'm here. Thank you so much, Leah. This was amazing. I mean, I felt like when I read the paper, I had my own, wow feeling. But seeing how you think about it and you're so deliberate and methodical about it is just brilliant. I knew that, like, like a good movie or TV series that we see, we just feel things, right? So I think good writing should do that. So in your case, you're very methodical, deliberate, and like a showrunner. You've kind of created every page of what we have read, and I'm so thankful that you could find the time to talk to us. So what I was doing is I had shared the Business School of AI's post about WeeklyWed on my own profile. So it's like my own notes taking. I was just, writing some notes, and I called out Tom and thanked him. And, that quote you said about how telling the wrong story erases the history of the right story is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I mean, especially in Women's History Month, and those of us who have been looking at women's contribution, and every International Women's Day, a whole bunch of them show up and say, and we look at, why was this not taught in our textbooks? It goes back to that, right? And it's not even controversial. It's just like women were raised, in many countries, many cultures. It's just, so I'm glad I live in this time when we take up space. so, and I'm thankful you took the time to come and talk to us. So hopefully more people will follow you. We have shared the link for the blog post. And I knew Deepika is brilliant. I always tell Deepika, she jumps in, tries to help me with a lot of different things, but she contributes to my book, to my courses, to a lot of different projects. And I tell her, you're an intellectual, so you should not be doing anything that's not intellectual work. So she's the perfect match to have that conversation with you. And I'm glad I got to sit in the audience seat and listen. So before we let you go, I just want to see is there any question here from our audience here on Zoom? And just be aware that this is being streamed to records, so that you're officially going to be in the recording if you speak up. But you can post a comment, and Deepika can bring it, and we can ask our speaker before she goes away. And I see a lot of new people. I like my students, getting to know every one of them, but it's not possible in this LinkedIn learning world. There are 100,000 students. So I appreciate you guys coming. So feel free to, introduce yourself in here, because then, you might be able to connect with each other too. And on our site at Business School of AI, LM has started building and put the first version of our student showcase. So if you want, you can get yourself added to it. You can go find out who are the other people who work in your field, your area of work, and connect and collaborate and things like that. Okay, so thank you so much, Leah. So I'm going to let you go. If you want to hang around, you're welcome to stay a little longer. I am lucky to be the person to announce. Yes, there's a question from Simbiat. Simbiat, if you want to speak, you'll be in the recording. That's okay if you want to speak.
There are
Actually, I do need to run. I'm so sorry, but I will happy to answer questions after, follow up later.
Oh, I see. Simbiat, can you just ask your question and we can let Leah go? And we can be sure to follow up. Yeah. Do you want to ask your question, Simbiat?
Yeah, that's fine. I was actually still trying to construct the question in my head, but I'll just go ahead to ask it while I
Oh,
have.
no, it's okay. I'm
still-
happy to answer it live.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was thinking, in your line of work, right? Have you ever come across should I say, points or claims that eventually appear to be wrong? And how did you handle that?
And well, my line of work is marketing and social media. So that's a whole different line of work, research and editorial and peer review. That wouldn't be my expertise. But I'm happy to share information about the peer review process. That's one thing I was a little concerned when I spoke with Sudha. I said, I'm not a researcher. But what Taylor and Francis does is provide a home for validated, trusted research. So basically, if anyone has any specific questions about the research process or editorial process, that would be to have an expert on the show who is an editorial would be great. Was that your question about the validity of research?
Yes. I mean, that's fine. That's incisive. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So I just want to make sure that I understood this right, because I was thinking Simbit is asking when you're collecting, telling a story from a research, what if it is not the right person who should be attributed to it? But you're saying there's a whole team behind you because you get to tell the story in the research process, in the peer review process, in the selection, that's taken care of, right? Especially you're not picking something from social media and writing a live comment. You're actually
No, of course. No, this is all
research.
peer-reviewed research and then all of these stories that I do choose are approved by my boss, who's the vice president of communications. So yeah, I'm not like this is never done kind of. There's a lot of work that goes into peer-reviewed research, and then I'm simply sharing these stories that are telling research impact.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I mean,
Thank you.
what I learned today is like now I'll never be able to read any article, of your caliber, right? Very lightly. That there's whole team behind it, so much research that goes in it, though, so much thought that goes in it to tell the story. I just thought it was just the power of storytelling, but I think it's a whole production that goes behind it. So thank you so much. We appreciate you coming here and talking to us. And thank you so much for that question also, Simbiat. We appreciate that. So with that, I'm going to unveil the IoT Women of 2026. Let me, for those of you who are new here, who came in just to listen to Leah, IoT Women is our flagship event that we host once a year on April 9th. And I kicked this off with Roxy Stimson, and this is our 9th year. And what I end up doing is all through the year, as I'm looking at different women, whether I'm reading their work, whether I'm looking at any kind of book or any work, right? If I see, oh, this is interesting, I tend to make a note of it, follow up with people, and I invite them to WeeklyWed if that is relevant, because we do WeeklyWed sessions like this all through the year. And if I find that it's a women and I can call them once a year, I kind of make a note of it. So that process we pick up in the beginning of the year and say, okay, who are we going to invite to speak? All women speakers. And we want global diversity. And our goal is to create role models for girls out there in every possible time zone. So Roxy Simpson started this, and I started this in 2018 to make a live stream of all women speakers. And in the beginning, in 2018, when we were doing this, we have no experience. I've run meetups, so I know to do live events and organization, and I speak as a speaker. And I did not know what went in this making the whole IoT Women. So we said, oh, we're going to run a live stream, and it's going to be the whole day. And both of us are in US in different locations. So we ended up creating a live stream pre-Zoom world, and it was on live streaming on YouTube. And we had like a whole day, like morning 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock. And we invited speakers from all around the world. And so we have refined that process. So before I announce who are the speakers for this year, I want to show you a little bit of the many speakers and topics. And I had a hard time bringing all this together. Last night I was up, I was so excited and very humbled, but I didn't have like a perfect way of organizing this. Elam from my team is a creative and helps put things in pretty colors and beautiful communication. And I know to write and present and talk, but getting 700 hours of videos over the last 9 years, and at least like I think we have about 160 to 70 speakers from the past, was a daunting task. But I wanted to show you, this is not some random, call this person, let them talk, whatever, or just, pitch the latest in tech that's happening each year. There's a lot of programming that goes in. There's a volunteer team that works behind the scene. So you'll be hearing about all that in the coming days leading up to IoT Day on April 9th. So what we are going to have this year is, again, we are going to have the live stream 24 hours, but we're going to have All America's live stream, like I started with Roxy, and Roxy will be joining me. And from 10 o'clock in the morning all day, we'll have that. But within that, we are going to have speakers from Latin America. We are going to have a speaker from Australia, and we have to fit the schedule such that it overlaps correctly with the time zones. So Latin America overlaps with us, which is a good thing. There's a little bit of overlap with Australia with our time change. I'm lucky I'm able to get a speaker from Australia this time. For Africa, though there is a overlap, we have amazing talent and brilliant women with leadership from Africa. So starting last year, we decided to create a Africa regional panel in the Nigerian time zone. And so, again, Africa is a big continent with many, many countries. So I don't want to just call it Africa time because, we had to go through that. Is it going to be on the East Coast time or West Coast time? And many different time zones in there. And so this year it's going to be in Nigerian time zone. Last year it was in Ghana time zone, based on who is leading the charge. And Simbit here, who was asking us questions to the previous speakers, is going to be our Africa lead. And she has worked relentlessly in finding people, vetting people, bringing them to submit the nominations for this year. So we're going to have a couple-hour sessions of multiple speakers. You'll hear about that for the Africa panel. Similarly, for Asia, last year we had a South Asia panel because we had speakers only. We had a lead from Pakistan, and we had a couple people from India. And that was our panel last year for that regional panel. And this year we have people from Philippines, from Nepal, more countries added to a mix. And remember, our goal here is to make sure that every girl out there has a role model, seeing strong women taking up space. This year's theme is taking up space. I've actually written a post on my newsletter in Limitless about what does taking up space mean. So you will talk a little bit more about this. It's just about, not just taking up space and physically being present, but mentally allowing yourself to take charge. And I know one of the exercises I go through when I'm inviting women to nominate, and we make women nominate as self-nomination. And when I ask women to nominate, some of them say, "Oh, I can't do that. I cannot look like I'm I'm bigger than my boss, or I'm, the top talent in my field." And there are like some self-limiting views and some self-limiting situations, unfortunately. But a lot of them also take the time and initiative, and they mentor other people. They take this responsibility very seriously. And one of the other things I notice is women will not easily accept a topic to speak unless they've researched and they've done their homework and they've done the prep and they're ready with it. And this published research, I came across this in Lenin book about how women have to be 100% ready with their work, having done that before or prepared before they even agreed to take on new projects. And I see that reflected in the last month of March, Women's History Month, when I'm seeing, the women have done all these things and it has not been attributed in history. And then I go talk to real women and, in industry, and I work in tech industry. And so I see people, working in technology industry or in enterprise applying tech. And now with my recent book, I've come across a whole bunch of people on language and machine translation and linguists. So they're all like thinkers, brilliant career women in their field. And then there is this whole thing of, I am not perfect enough. So I hope, with this round of the 9th year of IoT Women, what we are going to do is we're going to teach you something. So men or women or any gender, doesn't matter. You're welcome to come learn from these amazing women. We are doing this across multiple time zones. I lose a lot of sleep. My team loses a lot of sleep to make sure that we bring this round the clock. But we want to do that because we want people from your time zone in every possible time zone to be able to attend and to be able to, and all the live streams are free. We will have Zoom sessions so that, people who are in the local time zones, if they want to come in and talk to the speakers for real and have questions answered, we'll plan for timing for the Q&A accordingly. But the idea is we want to create role models for everyone to know that's possible. There are people who look like them, talk like them, have hair like them, think like them, and are working passionately on different industries that they are not seeing role models around them. One example I've seen is Dia Win is a brilliant speaker from WeeklyWed. She works in Amazon on AI ethics, and she had said that she had not seen someone like her growing up, who was a software engineer. And the first one she saw, she was like, I could be that, and that kind of motivated her and propelled her career. And so that's our hope with IoT women. So. Deepika, I'm trying to share my screen and I seem to have trouble with that today. I don't know why.
I'm going to make you fully the host. Let's see if that works.
No, just keep me co-host. It's fine. I don't want the.
No, you are co-host right now. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, let me see whether it's allowing me. It changed the view a little bit. So I'm just seeing, just the speaker view here. Blur, edges, background. So I'm not seeing the option where it will show the share option. I'm not
Okay.
seeing the
You should
bottom.
have it now.
You are host. Yeah, it's not showing me any other share window. That's my problem. Okay, let me close everything else and come back here, guys. Because I want to go to. No, I think the Zoom screen has kind of split up, so it is showing the share and other options somewhere else. So let me go find it. So where I'm trying to go is to Business School of AI. So for those
If
of
you
you,
go to your top left hand where it says Zoom Workplace and it says meeting, you should still have a start share option.
Zoom Workplace, I see that. It says meeting, team chat, scheduler, search. Okay, and then it gives me a more option. Okay, at least I'm able to see the team chat is a good thing. Minute. I want to see whether I can bring you back as co-host, which I missed, right? I'm able, let me see whether I'm able to see other people in here. Okay, I see. Team chat. So you know what they've done? They've made the whole team chat is to an ongoing running chat instead of individual chat for the session. Because we do this WeeklyWed forever. So they're like, why don't you go back and look at all the past chats? And that's what they're doing. Okay. How do I get to it, Deepika? Because it's still showing me only. I see you guys at least. That's beautiful. Thank you, guys. So, Deepika, I'm going to make you a co-host and I'm going to request that you do a little bit of share on my behalf. I want to show two windows to people. The most beautiful one is to go to Business School of AI/IoT Women. So if you go to Business School of AI, that's a learner community. And if you click on IoT Women, Deepika, will you be able to share that for me? Because I'm not seeing the share option in here. Thank you. Are you able to share the Business School of AI? Go to businessschoolofai.com, click on IoT Women, share that beautiful screen for our people to see.
Yeah, it's sharing.
Okay, thank you very much. So, so this is IoT Women, all women speakers for 24 hours as I was talking. Can you go down a little bit? And then you'll see the welcome message from Roxy Stimson. You can see that later. And somewhere down, you see, yeah, the 24 women in 24 hours. And the beautiful creative that LM has made about this year's speakers. This is the IoT Women of 2026 and taking up space. LM, you're so brilliant. Thank you so much. I just saw that taking up the way you have done the up and the space. I was like, unbelievable. How am I lucky that he's still, working with me. So thank you so much. And thank you everyone for joining us, all the women who have been nominated, all the people who nominated them. And this year we had a couple men who came and nominated women. And Ken Haran is, tops the list here because he nominated a lot of women, followed up and explained what this is about. And in here, you will see me and Roxy in the top. And then you will see some others who are my repeat speakers like Minand and Danan, Yashaswini, Deepika Sarkar, Mala, a few of, and Fatima Zafar. Simbiat was a speaker last year, and Simbiat has come back to, lead the Africa regional panel. Fatima's helping with the whole Asia panel. So we're going to do that as not a South Asia panel, but as an Asia panel. And the topics are unbelievable. I was trying to collate, and I'm going to take LM's help to kind of bring this to you in a meaningful way on the various topics we covered. So one of the things we started out, I was working on autonomous vehicles, teaching a course at that time in 2018, and Roxy Stimson was working on industrial IoT. So we started with those two topics. And then we had this AI Saturdays team from Nigeria, Tejumade Afonja, come in and talk to us about upskilling AI skills. Now she's a brilliant researcher in the AI space. And then we had Anushka Westlergen from Netherlands come in and show us a bunch of real robots. We kind of tried to make her walk and show the robots, which is, it's 2018, guys, when we started. So we had like topics like design thinking, a lot of IoT in industry and security, smart security, IoT security, use cases for enterprise, architecture, blockchain, a whole bunch of things at that time. We even had like a group of middle school kids talk about, how they built a robotic arm. And then fast forward, by 2020, a lot of things became about design and data. And we had a lot about autonomous vehicle data, data payload, digital twins. And there's still a lot of IoT, how to bring product to operations from Nehal Gandhi and the like, right? And always there was a theme about how do we, do this responsibly. So we had like this social entrepreneurship for kids by Atiba Gaines. And then the world of chatbots and all was evolving. So we had Zoya Lakhani from Pakistan talk to us about chatbots. Ruth Miller from Singapore talked to us about chatbots. This was, early 2021. And then it continued on. And then I think 2021 was hardcore AI. Ruth Naduta came and told us, here is BERT. What is BERT, which is a precursor of GPT. Tejumade came back and talked to us about what is deep learning NLP. And then we had Sam Wigglesworth also talk about NLP in a different dimension, how to build NLP chatbots. And then again, the responsible use of AI kicked in. And we have Monika Manlova from Bulgaria came in and said, hey, wait a minute, how do we use AI in climate change? And Aisha Tukudape said, how do we, think about art and AI without, being disrespectful to the artist. And there was another one that's always sticks with me whenever I'm looking for new topics and speakers is from Lisa Abeta from New Mexico, who said, how do you bring kindness in urban planning? We still need that kindness in urban planning. So, and then I think last couple of years, we became a lot more towards, okay, here is computer vision and how we bring AI for various different industries, a lot of generative AI and robotics and all that stuff. And then last year, I think we brought it back to, okay, we've done a lot of AI. Now, how do we bring carriers in data? How do we do AI in physical spaces? And then Paulina Priyanikova from Eastern Europe came in and said, wait a minute, what is AI space law? LM has actually done a little montage with a bunch of different speakers. And I think he has Paulina in there talking about this, asking us to think about this. So the goal was not just to teach, we brought the latest topics just by selecting women who are top of the field from various countries. We brought it naturally brings the latest topics, but with heart, with responsibility, and then shaping the role of the future of AI and what is the role of women. And then we had this panel on being unapologetically you. So these were all like, and a lot was on about AI skill development and impact of technology on jobs. That was last year. So now we have come to this year with this amazing set of women, and I'm excited to work to bring the program for you. So look out for it. We are going to have the Africa panel in Africa, in Nigeria morning time. We're going to have the Asia panel. We'll have to figure out the exact timing, but it is going to be daytime so that it covers Nepal and Philippines and Pakistan. And then we're going to have the America panel with me and Roxy starting from 10 o'clock. Including our speakers from Latin America, including our speakers from Mexico, Peru, and Australia. So that's the plan, and then we will bring you the details of what those are. Elam, I think realistically by next Monday we should be able to share our agenda, right? So we'll put out what the agenda, what our teams are. And so if you're already not in the IoT Day mailing list, you should sign up. If you're already been in the list, you'll start hearing from us soon. And mark your calendar for April 9th. I know it's a work day. Wherever you are in the world, you'll be able to come watch this and then come back, watch the recording too. So with that, I'm going to wrap up. Thank you, everybody. Congratulations to the IoT Women of 2026. We will be following up with the specifics of the logistics, because I need to work with these women on their time zone and availability and topics that they have submitted to build out the program for you. But this year's program is going to be like last year, women leading the charge, bringing you the latest in AI, teaching you where to apply your knowledge. And it is going to go past AI, because we've been through that and we've seen how technology is evolving and solving real problems. And because our theme is taking up space, we are going to have, of course, a panel on taking up space and growing your career. And it's not limited to women. And so I hope to see you all at IoT Day, and stay tuned. Meanwhile, you can just go to businessschoolofai.com, or if you're following us on Business School of AI on LinkedIn, Elam will be bringing you all the latest updates every day. And in there is this whole IoT Women. So we'll be sharing this, just the montage also on my LinkedIn and on Business School of AI. But be sure to congratulate these women and come and learn from them. So with that, Deepika, I think we are ready. We can close out for today. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. You're the host, so you'll be able to close it for everyone.
Okay. And for those of you who have joined here, if you want to, if you came in through some referral, be sure to join the WeeklyWed list, because we do this. I talk to my learners once a month in a live stream called Sudha Live, and the April one is going to overlap with IoT Day. So April 9th, it'll be like for US time, it'll be the previous evening when it is 9 o'clock somewhere in the world. We'll start that recording and streaming. So look out for that. And if you're not part of the regular WeeklyWed list, WeeklyWed is where we bring a speaker. So even if we do IoT Day and we get tired and exhausted, we are going to wake up and we are still going to bring you WeeklyWed. So be sure to join the WeeklyWed list. And you can just go to businessschoolofai.com, click on IoT Women, and you can see the beautiful montage, links to several recordings of past years, all the different topics. If you're interested, you'll be able to learn from there. If you click on WeeklyWed in there, you can go look at the sign up and look at the playlist from many years also. And then if you look at community, you can find the montage of my students, and you can join. If you're one of my students, you can just join in there, or you can just see who are the other people who can make a job referral, who can help you on advice in a similar field or industry or topic, and things like that. So with that, I want to wrap up. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to Deepika, Elam, and Symbiat for being part of my craziness to bring the voice of these women and run these events for our community, so that we keep our learners continuing to learn wherever they are. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.